makes the flowers bloom in spring. Tell me who gives the air that you breathe. Ooh. Everything that you need he will provide, so you may as well come on and give him a try. He's awesome. Ooh, he's awesome. He's awesome. What would I do without him? Couldn't make a move without him. I won't be without him. He's awesome.
Good evening, people of God. Welcome to ZMR Ministries. I'm Pastor Z, and thank you for joining me for another episode of What's the Issue Wednesday. Now, today's episode, you guys, is so dear to my heart because I have my family here, and we're talking about our family legacy, our heritage, our bloodline. Today's topic is called Queen. It's in our DNA. And today we're going to be focusing on legacy. And so I've been blessed to be able to see my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents, as well as the people and my cousins who are in my generation. And I understand that everyone is not blessed to see that or even experience their grandparents or parents, let alone. So today we're going to talk about the legacy that's been left in our lineage, our DNA, our bloodline, and how we have learned and are learning to be queens in my family. Help me welcome my grandmother, Mary Robinson, and my cousin, Dana Struggs. Thank y'all so much for joining me. I'm so happy that y'all are here with me and that we get to talk about our queen, which is Lillie Mae Struggs. Lillie Mae Struggs is my grandmother's mother, and she is my great-grandmother, and she's Dana's grandmother. So we're just missing one generation in between. But I wanted some feedback and to talk about how my great-grandmother has set an example and has left a legacy, not just for herself, not just for her children, but it trickles all the way down to her great-grandchildren, and she has great-greats. Yes. So I think when she died, it was 5 generations, and it was a 6th on the way. So she died just shy of, the 6 being born, but she's 101. What is the importance of legacy to you all? Granny, I'll let you start because you're the oldest.
Okay.
The more seasoned. She's the most seasoned.
Okay. The importance of leaving a legacy is so that your generation that you're leaving will have an example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They will have the map. They will have the steps to follow if they pay attention.
What about you, Dana?
For moments as this, where we can actually gather around and we're able to, reminisce and think about all the good times and the legacy that she left. Yes. Just
right.
Priceless moments.
Yeah, and legacy is important to me because, like my granny said, it leaves a blueprint. It leaves a roadmap, and everyone is blessed to have that. It lets us know how we should fashion our lives, how we should treat our families, how we should raise our children. The Bible talks about leaving things for your children up to the 4th generation. And so things is not always money, it's not always material things, but knowledge, especially, the love of Christ.
Yes.
That's deeply embedded in us because it was passed down from generation to generation all the way down. It was what we saw. It wasn't just taught. It's what we saw you live, what we saw mother live, being a praying woman and it trickling down all the way to us. It's not even a second thought. And so what the importance of a legacy is, what are you leaving for your name? When you die and you're gone and you have generations, on down the road, what is your name saying? And I think that's the importance of legacy. Granny, I want to ask you, what are some attributes or some pre-qualifiers for legacy carriers?
Most of all, I feel that you have to be yourself. And you have to love God and love Him to the point that even though things may happen that's not fair or that you don't understand, you take the Word of God and you apply it. And that way, if you walk by faith and walk the way the Lord has laid His pattern and the legacy of Him, then everything will come out all right.
Dana, what do you think some pre-qualifiers are?
Oh, my dear, hit the nail on the head. Oh, my goodness. I was going to say the same thing. The first thing I would say was God-fearing, being God-fearing, independence, how you treat people, how you, treat God's people, how you act accordingly, how you, it's so many qualities. We'd be here all day naming them.
I think for me, like I said, in earlier in the conversation, it's about what do you want your name to ring? When someone says your name, and I think a pre-qualifier is always thinking beyond yourself.
Yes.
Thinking generations ahead. When you're working a job, is this gonna bless my children's children? Am I leaving something set up for my children? And is what I'm storing in them right now leaving something for my children's children? I think that's an excellent pre-qualifier. Or I'm not saying that you have to be qualified to leave a legacy, but what I'm saying is the characteristics and the traits is you think beyond yourself. You have to be selfless because you're not thinking for just my children. Because what you instill in your kids, that's what they're going to instill. Now, we understand that sometimes there are bad apples. And, it's always what we say, it's always one in a family, that you're like, where did they come from? But at the same we know it's always maybe two. I think we can think about 2 or 3. A couple, but it's okay. It's family. We love them. But what I love the most about it is when we think about our matriarch, Lillie Mae Struggs, everything that we're saying, we're able to say because that's what she instilled in them. That's what she instilled in you all, and I'm talking about generational. And then it was instilled in me. It was passed on to me. I was fortunate. My grandmother raised me. She did a great job. I mean, I'm a little cuckoo, but she did the best she could. But what we know is, even though Aunt Trisha's your mom, you was with mother all the time. That was you were attached to our hips. So what we have in common is we were pretty much kind of raised by our grandmothers, or not pretty much. We were. They took a big hand in raising us, and so in that we saw firsthand examples of womanhood. Because, okay, Dana, we have to be honest. One thing that we know about my granny and her sisters, they are very classy.
Oh, yes.
They are very poised.
Yes,
Thank you.
And so when we think about, we didn't have to look at outside sources. We didn't have to watch TV. We didn't have to rely on women at the church to show us how to be women. How to be classy. How to act and react, how a woman is supposed to behave, things like how we're supposed to take care of our business, learning to be independent, not just God-fearing women, but mothers and wives, even though we're not there yet. But we see the example of our aunts and cousins and people, the ones who grew up with us. We can see the manifestation of what you guys sowed in us. What do you think, Granny, when it comes to how you've sown? Was it a direct, product of what mother put in you?
It was, because mother was a woman that loved. She loved in spite of. Now, that doesn't come just naturally. It has to be greater than it's like agape. You love in spite of. Mother, so many times things would occur, but I never saw her angry or putting somebody down or just not wanting to have anything to do with them. It seemed like if somebody did wrong, that caused her to pull that person in closer.
Right.
And that's one thing that I can say about me. Sometimes I'll say, it's just what mother would do. So I think the love that she showed and had a lot to do with who I am, who I am today.
What about you, Dana?
The loving unconditionally. Oh, man. Even in my personal prayer, that's one of the things I always say. I say, Lord, help me to learn how to love your people in spite of, because none of us are perfect. If we were perfect, you wouldn't have go to Calvary, but that's one of the things that in my personal prayer helping me to love your people. And my dear hit the nail on the head again. That's what Granny did. She did not. I think out of her 101 years of existence, I've seen her cry twice. I think it was at Uncle Jimmy's funeral and at Uncle Willie's funeral. That was it. And she just was not a crier. And you're right, when you talk about my mama and Aunt Mayrel and all the aunties, they're just not, I'll be professional. I'll say they're very strong women because they do not. They take a licking and they just keep on ticking. I don't think I've ever seen any of them cry.
We have.
I'm glad you said that because they keep it together.
Yes.
They keep it together. Yes. And, you know, sometimes that can be very rough because I'm an emotional person, right?
So am I.
And so, you know, I would whine and cry. We were whiners. Me and Dana, we were pretty spoiled growing up. We were whiners. You know, they would always say, "Stop singing and say what you want to say." You know, but when you're being raised by women who are not whiners, they're not emotional. Sometimes you feel like there's a disconnect. You know, because you're like, you don't understand what I'm going through. This is something very serious. But it's because they've gone through so much.
Oh my goodness.
And their strength is so built up in them that they know this will pass. You'll be okay.
Yes.
You'll be okay. Just listening to y'all talk about the love that, you know, we inherited from mother and how we still have to practice and work because it doesn't, like Granny said, it doesn't come natural. And let me say this because it'll get confusing. I'm calling her Granny because she's my granny. Dana is her niece, and our cousins call her Aunt Mariel, but Dana calls her my dear because that's what everybody in our family calls her. When Dana says Granny, she's talking about my great grandmother.
Yes.
When I say mother, I'm talking about her mama. Okay, I hope y'all get that. Because it's like, what y'all talking about? We're talking about the same woman. But I listen to y'all talk about the love, and it doesn't come natural. You have to put that into practice.
Yes.
But what I wanted to mention, you know, I always have to be a little different. You know, I have a little petty streak, you know, and I can be blunt. And that passes down because mother was funny. Do you hear me? And people would think that she's being petty, which what we would call petty is just mother keeping it real.
Oh my goodness.
And she had an hilarious side of her that people didn't often get to see, you know, just because they always revered her, and they were just like, oh, Miss Struggs, Miss Lillie, mother, you know, she was a mother in the church, so everyone just loved on her, but they didn't get to see the inside scoop.
Oh my goodness.
You know what I'm saying? They don't see the stories that we tell, and it's just like, you know what, y'all, mother is just, and we like, yeah, she a trip too. She's a trip, and she was a woman's woman.
Yes, she was.
And she had her own mind. You're not gonna tell mother what to do.
No.
You're not gonna run her. I don't care how old she got. We'd be worried. Y'all remember they had that program for mother at church, and we were all looking for her after church, and she had already drove home. And we were panicking. We was like, nobody see mother. We don't know where she is. And Terrence was like, let me go. I'll go. We gonna go on to the house, mama. And we drove over, and mother was already there, and we like, mother, we looking for you. And I was ready to go. We was like, okay. Okay. We was like, well, you didn't tell her. I don't have to tell anybody. I was like, oh. And so that's a side that people didn't. I mean, even her not talking about people, but you know, she would just speak her mind, and it would be. I mean, she was hilarious, and I think you know that transcends throughout our family as well because we have learned to laugh. No, one thing about our family, y'all, people say we are a trip. Because it can be somebody dead, it can be some big tragedy that has happened, and we will crack a joke. We will laugh our way through it and just feel like, wait a minute, y'all, this is a horrific thing that has happened. How y'all let they think our family is bipolar? And it's because, you know, when we think about mother, Mother never let anything take her laughter away. She always had a smile. She was always just the light of the room. Not because she was the oldest, not because of who she was, but it was just the love of Christ that made her who she was. And we can see now, just sitting at this table, it's making us who we are, and continues to make us. And it's something that we will pass on to our children. So the life and testimony of Mother. How do people remember her? Because we have our own definition of who she was. Like I said, we get inside scoops, or we saw inside scoops because we are family. But what matters is not how the people on the inside see you, it's how you've affected everyone around you. So what would you say others, say about Mother, or how they remember her, and what was her foundation?
That caring spirit. She cared about everybody. She was not limited. She loved everybody.
Right.
Any race, anybody, and they loved her back. So many times I remember Mother would be out eating. She'd get in that car and she'd be out eating, and she'd go to pay her bill, and the cashier would say, "Oh, it's paid for." And she said, "Who did it?" "Well, that gentleman that was sitting over here." Sometimes it would be Caucasian. Sometimes it would be Spanish. Sometimes it didn't matter. But they felt the care or the love that she exhibited. She'd always put herself in place, and she never met strangers.
Right.
When she went into a public place,
everyone knew it. She was a celebrity.
She just, how are you doing today? She was speaking, and she could strike up conversation.
Right.
Even in her 90s, even when she turned on, she'd strike up conversation. And she'd just say, "God is good, and it's gonna be all right.
I'll take nothing for my journey." That's what she was saying.
Yes, when I want to be saved. And I use that now. I do. I don't find it hard to lift myself. And it's not in a hypocritical phase, or it's just that a lot of people now, they'll ask me, they say, "Are you ever sad?" And I have much sometimes to be sad about. But when I want to be sad, He makes me glad. And I think about Mother. And I said, she did it, and I can do it. And I don't find it hard to do. It's not.
And that's, and I'm glad that you said it's not a facade.
Right.
It's nothing fake, because we see it. And so even with you, because it's like you a little mother. And people are saying the same things about you. They're just like, "Oh, ain't Mary, or ain't Mariel, or District Missionary, I never see her upset." And me and Dana like, "Who?" You see who that? But it's just like with Mother, how she wasn't a stranger to anybody. And everybody loved her so much. She didn't really want for anything. And it's because when you are a blessing to people, and she poured for not just generations, but decades, and she poured into everyone.
Yes.
She made so many sacrifices. And one thing about her was she never did it to, like, as a showcase. She did it secretly. That's why when the Bible says when you do things, you do it in secret, and He'll bless you. And that was her. Our pastor now, who's been with us for over 20 years, he was saying how the Lord was telling him that the reason College Chapel is still in existence to this day is because of Granny purchasing the equipment in the church, paying, doing things, those solid things. And I don't think her children even knew. And if they did, they didn't say anything.
Right.
We go to the grocery store, because you're right, I did. Oh, and I'm so thankful. The only reason why my grandmother raised me wasn't because my mother worked endless and countless hours, but she was very present in my life.
Right.
So I didn't want that to be misconstrued.
No, I ain't Trisha.
Yeah, but no. So, but I spent a lot of time with Granny, and Zion is right. This is something that Zion and I have shared. She was always with my dear, which is my Mariel. and I was always with my granny, which is her mama.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spent a lot of time with grandmothers, which is why we have those old spirits.
Old spirits. And people tell us that all the time. Oh, y'all talk like old women.
But look what we were reading.
Right.
But, oh man, Zion, you had posted a Instagram picture of Mother on her knees.
Mm-hmm.
And you wrote this long passage, and you were just like, there were so many nights out there pleading the blood of Jesus over me and my siblings, this and the other. And I said, oh, how many times did Granny have to lift? How many times did Granny have to lay hands on me and lay hands on the family? And it's just, I just feel like because of, when I pray, I tell God, I say, because of the things that she did for us, because of the sacrifice and the fast and everything, it's like, Mother, help me. What's the scripture? Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I once was young, but now I'm old.
But I
Never
never
have
seen
I
the
seen
righteous
the
forsaken.
And the
No, his seed begging
and
bread.
when it says
Yes.
the seed, that's us.
Yes.
Her seed.
Right.
Y'all seed.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so that's
Right.
because, so it's because of that. And I think about that scripture all of the time. So we go to the grocery store. This is in between her time where she wasn't driving, didn't have a vehicle. I was appointed to take her to the grocery store. We going to the grocery store. Okay, all right, Granny, let's get out this. Let's get together. How you doing? Oh, I'm doing all right. Yeah. Oh, Mother Struggs, I just want to thank you because when you laid hands on me and when you prayed for me, I went to the doctor and I was healed, this, that, and the other. They said, your grandmother really, she helped, the Lord used her and she really healed me.
Yeah.
And I said, wait, Mother, I said, oh, well, when did this happen? Back in 1977. I said, oh, okay. So when you say how do people remember her? I mean, they still dwelling on things she did.
Right, years ago.
Man.
Now I told you I'm an emotional person, but Dana bringing up that post that I put. First of all, I snuck that picture of my granny in her pajamas on the side of her bed praying. But that's how we were reared.
Yeah.
I mean, there were countless times where I was in nursing homes, going to people, literally going to people's houses. Me and Dana had a thumb in the mouth. we in there helping changing bed pads at 6 and at 5. We thought we was little nurses.
And I say, Sister Carter and Randy, I said, why are we going to the hospital? We're doing hospital ministry.
Right.
Why do we have to do this? And it was just so many questions. We were so curious, like, why are we doing this? What is this for? But as I've gotten older, it's like, I'm so happy. I'm so happy they, made us do those things. They, because, it just helped us be the women we are now. It really did.
But it was so touching to me with you bringing up that post because it's the example. It's the example that we got. And that's what I was saying whenever, my granny was saying it's not a facade. This is not about something they talked about. Because, there are times where people know your family in a different way. And, there are some people who side-eye their family like, child, y'all know her at home.
Exactly.
Y'all know her at the house. She'll tell y'all think she's sweet. But it was like, that's reality. I mean, they're humans, of course. So when we say things like, oh, we don't see district missionary get upset, we like, who don't get upset? It's because, they're our family. So of course we see another side of them. It's not that they're living two different lives. But when you raising kids, of course you're gonna see them upset. We got fussed at, we got our butts whooped, all those things. So when we hear, they don't get upset, we like, baby, please. But
It's okay.
I just want to add to that. Okay, I'm always, talking about how our family is funny, and I know they said such touching things, but I have to, be the I gotta bring the laughter.
Okay.
I would say another one of the things that has been passed down is they are the queens of the side eye. Because mother had a way of cutting them eyes at you. I remember one time I was talking, and I just when I was young, y'all, and I was just really full of myself. And mother, she was just quiet, and she was like, and she wouldn't say nothing. When you get through, she'll just do this, and she'll look at somebody else and say, then you see them shoulders. So you knew right then you was being clowned. So now that we're older, and same way. You know, we'll get in groups or just in our individual lives. You know, we'll hit you with that side eye like. We may not say nothing, but you gonna know, you know. And then we'll look at each other, you know. Me and Dana do that all the time. We'll look and then we look, and then just bust out laughing.
Yes,
and nobody will know what's going on, but it's that unspoken language. You know what I mean? And sometimes the side eye wasn't bad. It was just, you know, sometimes it got you together. And she had a way of gathering spirit, get you all the way right without saying anything. I have to tell this funny story, then we're gonna move on, y'all. I remember I was at my granny's house watching Family Feud. And, you know, when mother would get sick or anything like that, she would go to granny's and then, you know, she would stay there. And I'm sitting there, I'm calling all the answers out. It's this, it's that. Mother was in the chair and she hit me with that side eye. She wasn't saying nothing. And then Steve Harvey moved on and she looked at me again. I was screaming. And then finally she said, well, why don't you go on the show? And I knew right then that was my cue to shut up.
Understand. You just had to understand. That was what I was saying.
Right. And that's what I mean by, you know, there's a difference between how others view her and how we see her. But what I've seen consistently just from our conversation, everyone viewed her the same. And that's the goal, you know, about legacy. It's not just about having one image in front of your family, another image in front of your church, another image at work, another image to the public. Everyone would say Mother loved Jesus.
Oh, yes.
She was caring. She was loving. She was considerate. She had a sense of humor. You know, no, she wasn't a stranger. And I think that is, I mean, it just warms my heart because that's what we should all be striving to be, or how to be. So when I want y'all to name something that mother instilled in us knowingly or unknowingly. Matter of fact, name something that she instilled in you knowingly and something she instilled in you unknowingly.
You've already said the love of Jesus. That's the number one. I mean, you think about it, it's everything centers around that.
Right.
Unknowingly,
y'all.
knowingly, I just feel like mother was that example that I could follow. And it was the example that I wanted to follow. Unknowingly, a lot of times right now, I can find myself doing something, and I said, that was just like mother would do it. It's just, I can't point out or remember any specific thing right now, but I do that all the time. I say, mother, it's just the way that she did it. And I was thinking as you were talking, you have to be yourself. And mother was confident in herself. That's why she could say whatever she had to say to
And who gonna say something?
Exactly.
And when she called you by your name, and you knew that she was trying to get a point over, you knew that you stand there and listen. You just stand to that listen. But she had so many good qualities. I mean, good qualities. And anybody would strive or desire to be like her. You really
Family
would.
or not.
Family or not. You would want to be, take on some of her qualities because she was special. God don't make her like that all the time.
Right.
She was just special. Just special.
I'm going back to her funeral and just reading her obituary. It was a lot of things I did not know. And one thing that stuck out to me was she was an entrepreneur. She had a restaurant. And I was like, when?
And so downtown.
Right.
Not just off somewhere in a little corner.
Right.
She was downtown.
My granny wanted to make sure y'all knew that. In other words, she was official. It wasn't no little hut. Not clowning the huts, but you know what I mean. But when I read that, I was like, no wonder I have an entrepreneurial spirit. And I didn't realize that it started from mother. And so when it comes to, of course, knowingly, you know, the love of Christ and laughter and all of those things that she taught us, but unknowingly was, I didn't know that I had the spirit to want to work for myself, that it came from her. And sometimes, you know, you don't realize what somebody has taught you or the impact that they've made in your life until they're gone. And sometimes they don't get to see it until they're gone. But mother lived to see it.
She did.
Yes,
She lived to see it. And I remember she would look at us when it was family gatherings, and she would just sit back and she would say, y'all, these are all my children. And I was like, you know, when I think about that kind of stuff now, and I'm like, can you imagine being 101, living that long, not just living to see all the things that's happening in the world, politically, seeing how the automotive industry has changed, the movie industry, whatever other industry has changed, but to see your children grow, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren, and then before you die, you're like, oh, I have a great-great-great on the way.
Yes.
You know, it's just like, you know, when you think about things like that, most people die without seeing the manifestation of their impartation. But she was able to see it. Not just see it, but comprehend it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And still rearing, because there wasn't a time that I didn't see mother or call mother, and I would call her and she would talk to me and laugh, and then she'll always say, you need to live for Jesus. And I'm like, mother, I am living for him. Well, keep on living. Okay, yes ma'am, you know, and we would just listen, because, you know, and then she would laugh after me, you know, I'm telling you, mother had them
Just like that, I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
I remember when I was moving to LA, and she was at my dinner, and I put on camera, I said, mother, is there something you want to tell me? And she was giving me, you know, some great words of wisdom and encouragement, and then she was like, keep the Lord in your life. And she hit that side out. Keep the Lord in your life. And that was the last conversation, not that conversation, but when it was my birthday. And I remember I called her. And her birthday, yeah. And I FaceTimed her, and Dana let me talk to her in the car, and we laughed and talked, and the last thing she told me before she died was, keep God first. Keep him number one. Keep him number one, and you obey God. Live for Jesus. And I said, I hear you, mother. And she made it a point to tell you over and over. And it wasn't, you know, where you felt like, mother, stop judging me, stop doing this. No. It was because she has, the love of Christ was her lifestyle. And so she wanted everybody, I want you to experience Jesus like me.
Yes. And she wasn't judgmental.
No.
And that's how she was able to draw so many people to God. Because with love and kindness have I drawn.
Right.
And all the time, because that was Granny. She drew them in, just like mother drew them in with love. And my own mom. It's just funny because I keep hearing you talking about the generation. You're talking about Granny. And it's just funny because as you keep speaking, I'm like, she's right.
Right.
She passed that down.
We're becoming them.
Right. Yes, we are becoming them. Yes, so it's, oh man.
But let's talk about that confidence. I'm gonna add this in before I move to the next question, because in that same conversation that I called her for her birthday when I FaceTimed her, I was working on a film. And I said, mother, you know, I want to bring you to the set and let you be a star, girl. I'm gonna let you be a star. And what she say, Dana, I'm already a star. Check. So when y'all hear my mouth, and y'all like, Brian, y'all always got something smart to say. She full of herself. I'm confident, baby. Lillie Mae Struggs was confident. That's all I'm saying.
But can't end this segment without talking about it. Mother knows what she did prior to leaving here. Like she knew she was about to leave.
She did.
She knew she was about to leave, and she tried to prepare us. She told us what she wanted. She told us the color casket, the type of flowers, everything. Had me and Mom in tears. That was 2 weeks before she passed away. Then mother, that next week, she told me, I walked through the door and she said, give me a pen and paper. It's okay. And I knew, I was like, I think she's gonna try to write something. But the sad part about it was she was too weak to write. So she told my mom, she said, I want to talk to all 4 of my daughters tonight. And she talked to each and every last one of them, told them she loved them and everything. And she was like, I want to talk to my sons. It was like she was preparing to leave, and she knew. And she wanted to make sure, not that she had done anything wrong, but because we're human, she wanted to right all her wrongs, which she hadn't done anything wrong. But she wanted to express her love for everyone before she transcended on. So it was.
But it's, God favored her.
Oh,
Yes.
definitely.
Because, I would hear mothers say all the time, she never wanted to be down. She didn't want to leave like that.
The day she passed, she was.
That's what I'm saying. Mother, she was 101 when she passed, but she was still driving.
Mhm.
She still had her own house.
Yes.
Mother was still cook.
Yes.
She was still doing her thing. I mean, when
Yes.
she came to church, she had on her nice
Yes.
suits.
Yes.
You would see her on a cane sometimes,
Yes.
but it didn't stop her.
No. not
And
right.
some people, especially at that age, check out when we have to care for them.
Right. You would see her with the cane.
Right,
But
okay.
everybody at church, she would come in with the cane in her hand. She would leave out, and the cane was under the
It
bench.
sure would.
And the pastor's wife, she had this, she said, Mother, take Mother, her husband. Mother would be all the way to the car, in the car, about to pull off. She said, I forgot that walking cane again. But she was just a marvelous person.
You know what? And you said husband, and I want to say she set the example on purity. And how, I remember one time at one of her services, she was up talking and she said, when I made the decision to live for God, I didn't want to be living for him and then I got Johnny, Harry, and Frank and whoever else coming through the back door. And we never saw that. We never saw that ever. I mean, the only man I know is Big Daddy.
Yes.
Period. That's my granny daddy. And that was it. And so when you said husband, I'm like, that's another attribute that mother set that example for us. We want there to be no floozies. Now if you was gonna be it on your own. It wasn't because she didn't set that example. And that trickled down. We ain't running around with no whole bunch of kids, and not knocking nobody who is, but I'm just saying, it matters who you're watching when it comes to legacy. It matters who's imparting in you when it comes to legacy. And I understand that some people may not have that, but to mother, she became all things for all people.
I agree.
For all people. The ones that didn't have it, and God graced you with someone like my great grandmother to say, you know what, you may not have that in your house, but there's a lady named Lillie Struggs that I'm going to send your way, send your path. And when I tell y'all, your funeral is a tell-all.
Yeah.
Because there are some people who have funerals and you like, well, I guess sit wherever you want. But our family alone.
Yes.
Our family, we have a huge family.
Yeah.
Huge family. I mean, what was it? It was like, it's 9 children. What is it, Granny? 8 children. And it was like 50-something grandchildren, 100 and something great grandchildren, and another, 100 some great. I mean, it was insane, and we were looking around like, how the guests gonna get in? Where they gonna sit? I mean, we're taking up all the space, and that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes that people were willing to sit outside just to pay honor to her, to pay homage, and that says a lot. Now, with all of that being said, because it's a choice. Things can be instilled in us, things can be imparted in us, but it is a choice whether we continue that legacy.
Yes.
How do you plan to continue Mother's legacy?
By continuing to live or trying my best, because I'm not perfect. But, we fall short, but just continuing to live through the example that she has set for us and everything that she's instilled in me. And, Madura's right. It's the things I do, and I'm just 35. I'm just like, oh man, Granny. I got that from my grandmother to this day. I got that from my grandmother. I eat all that candy because my grandmother. Man, I still talk about her like she's still living. Oh man.
And what about you, Granny? I mean, see, there go a real moment. No, I was saying, how do you plan on continuing her legacy?
The number one thing, as I had said before, I'm going to be myself, sharing, caring, loving, and most of all, loving God.
Right.
Committing myself to Him.
Yes.
And just just loving him because he's so wonderful. Just to continue loving him and loving God and delighting myself in his way. And I want to be that same type pattern. You know, if in 10 years, 15 years, if there's other grandchildren, great-grandchildren, nieces, I would love for them to remember me as being that caring person. And, you know, a lot of people now tell me, how do you do it? I have one godson that if I had a big head, I would just think I had 5 crowns. And he'll sit up and tell me, Mother, there's nobody in this world like you. Oh, my dear.
They don't make the eruptions no more.
You just love the Lord. I just don't, my dear. Oh, my dear. I just love you so much. The Lord. And I said, you know what? I'm so happy that I have that impact on your life. I said, but I hope the Lord think the same thing about me.
And that's what matters.
What you just said. I said, because maybe I've given you that impression. It's only because I love the Lord and I delight myself in him. He had asked me a question. This is kind of getting off. How did I maintain my spiritual life where, I mean, at any given moment, if somebody calls, we just break out in prayer. If they need prayer, if they need counseling, whatever they need. And I told him, I said, it doesn't come overnight. I said, but if you delight yourself in the Lord and you're not trying to live in a two-way street because it's either right or it's wrong. I said, if you choose to do what's right because you want to please God, not people, but God, I said, that becomes almost natural. It's just not hard to do what's right.
Right.
It's just not. And, you know, I just want to leave a legacy that I love the Lord. And if I love God, I love you.
That's it.
Because he said it. How can you say you love me and you don't love yourself, man? You haven't seen him, but you walk around day by day with people, and everybody is not the same. You can walk around somebody that's pleasant. You can walk around somebody that's God-fearing, but you can also walk around somebody with issues. But you got to love them. You got to show them love. And if you got to tell them the truth, but you got to do it as though how you would want somebody to come to you.
Right.
And that's what I try to do. So,
you know,
I'm
looking at a prime example of legacy, of mother's legacy in work. Because, you know, I know my granny is sitting here saying, you know, I want to leave that legacy, but she's already living it. And so whenever I ask you, you know, how do you plan on continuing, you know, mother's legacy, I'm like, you're already doing it. And when we think about Aunt Ruby and Lillian and Louise and Trisha, they're all already doing it. And not to leave my uncles out, we just talking about the women. But they're all already doing it. You know, because when you think about my granny, you have 5 generations under you, alive. She's a great-great-grandmother.
Yes.
You know, and she's only 78, or you're almost 78. She's just a couple of days shy. But, you know, when you think about that, it's another example of what I was saying earlier, that everyone don't get to see the manifestation of the impartation. But she does, and she has. And I think that's a blessing in itself. For me, continuing, you know, how do I plan to continue mother's legacy is just like my cousin said, keeping God first. Because when you keep him the center, everything else, all these other attributes, you know, that we saying that mother has, will come. Will come.
Yes.
You have no other choice but to be that when you sincerely keep God first, when you sincerely say, God, I want a heart like yours, when you sincerely say, Lord, I want to love like you, and mean it, because you'll say these things and he'll put it to the test.
Oh, yes.
He'll put it to the test. And that, you know, bless her heart, y'all. I love my granny. But sometimes I'm like, her love, you know, I'm like, that's on another level.
I know. That's why I'm still praying about it. You know,
We,
just
me
being
and Dana, we still working on it, you know, and maybe we are loving people, but you know, that side eye is a lot bigger. Amen.
We're trying to good way of putting it.
Thank you, and we still operating in mother's legacy.
There you go. There you go.
That's
See,
what I'm talking
there you
about.
go.
See, that's-
I'm telling you.
Listen, I have seen that example in work. And I'm talking about, there are some times where I was angry, where me and my granny have a conversation, and I'm just like, and she's like, no, that is not how the Lord would say. I'm not going to miss heaven for nobody. And I'm like, I mean, I ain't trying to miss heaven, but you know, right. And I've seen her forgive. Like, anytime I just say forgive, I've seen her forgive people and love on them. And you know, they walk in the house and I open the front door and I'm like, there go that side eye. But my granny, hey, she's so happy to see him, and she genuinely loves and forgives. And you know, I want to say that's, Lord, that's what I strive to be. But I want to make sure I'm honest when I say that, because that takes a great deal of, it takes the Lord, like my granny say. You know, when you were just talking about your godson and saying, you know, you feel like you would have 5 crowns listening to him, and it's right, just adorned with so many jewels and things like that. It's because it's the Lord. She is a walking example of grace. And that comes from what mother instilled in her. And, you know, hopefully by the time, you know, we're her age or younger, you know, God is working, and he's working expeditiously, okay? But we ain't there yet. But I speak for myself. I ain't gonna speak for you, Dana. I'm not all the way there. I'm not saying I don't love people, but it's just another level. It's another level. And we really do strive to get there. But it's gonna take work, and I'm grateful for that example because it's real. It's real. People don't see real examples of forgiveness. You know, I'm one that I'll forgive you, but go on over there. You know, I ain't trying to have you at the house, loving on you, bringing you to church, and you a part of the family. You know, y'all sitting in the rocking chair, watching TV, and then, you know, that's my granny, and God has graced her with that anointing. That mantle passed me. Amen. We're gonna keep praying for me. But what is this is not anything that I guess, you know, in accordance to legacy, but just what is your most fun memory of mother?
Oh my goodness. Ooh. I have
so many, right?
Because
right.
I spend so much time with her. Oh, if I wanted a dining restaurant partner, I'd get her. If I wanted to go shop, I'd get her. And people would think, she's 100, honey. She get that Walker, bring us from Ross. I tell you, we go to Ross, we go to Big Lots, we go to, oh my goodness. I treated her like she was my age, but not in a sense that I didn't have respect.
Right.
If I wanted to go somewhere, I want to do something, come on, let's go.
That was her road though.
What? Oh man.
That was her road though.
That's one of the things I miss, because it's a Saturday, Granny, let's go. You know, so we would, oh man, so it's just so many, but just the laughs. When I was in college, I called her, and we just laugh and we laugh and we laugh, and she was just comical, and just the things she'd say, and oh man. So the joyous times, the laughs, and all the adventures we went on, because we did go on adventures.
What about you, Granny?
I was just sitting here thinking about that. Going places with mother was just wonderful. I remember so many times when we would have state meetings or whatever, and if they were out of the Dallas Metroplex, we would go if it was close enough. And I think both of you know this. I started mother loving to take pictures. I never will forget, we were in Fort Worth for this convention, and I said, Mother, Dana was there, and Sonia, and Courtney, and Ray, and I said, Mother,
a long time ago.
I said, Mother, stand by the window and I'm going to take your pictures. Oh, no.
No,
And after that, after I took that picture and I showed her that picture and she thought, ow. And then from then on, she'd always love to do this.
Oh yes. I have so many pictures like that.
And the conversations, whether it was by phone or whether we were just sitting together, and how she remembered.
Memory was sharp.
So sharp.
So sharp.
And she would be telling me something, and I just have to laugh because she said, "Maybe you know."
Yo, right. And she'll tell you younger than me.
Oh,
I said, Mother, I seem like I remember, but I be saying to myself, I don't remember all of that. But it's just the talks and just being with her, being with her. I cherish that. I cherish that.
My most fun memories, one of my sisters, she passed last year, God rest her soul, but Jerusha, she would say all the time, you get on mother nerves. You get on my nerves. Because I was always trying to take selfies. And she would say, you don't want to do nothing but just have something put on that Facebook. And then eventually, I got a friend request from mother. I was like, so you talked about me. I always wanted to take pictures, put it on Facebook. Now you're on Facebook, and she had a ghostwriter. I told Dana, before I finished my point, I told Dana after Mother's funeral, I said, Dana, go on Mother's Facebook page and say, thank y'all for coming to my funeral. And Trisha was like, don't do that, scare people high to death. I was like, don't go there. But I wouldn't say most fun memory. I would say most fun memories is mother always kept it young. I mean, I have pictures where we shooting up the deuces, we doing duck flip. I would tell her to do something, say yes, mother, and she was like, yes. She was always willing to just be relatable with her family and with everybody. But I'm speaking for myself. No matter what it was, she wasn't uptight. I mean, she would listen and she would laugh with you, she would talk with you, and that's what my most fun memories of her is, just her just being a granny. Not the woman of God, not the mother of the church, not the woman in the community that everybody grew to love and adore. When she was me, she was just mother. She was just mother. And I remember when I posted that picture and she was giving the duck lips and we tossing the deuces, and I had just did her hair, y'all, and she put a hat right. Y'all remember that? I had just did her hair. I was proud. I was like, I combed your hair, mother. And I combed it and she put a hat right on top of it. I guess she was like, I'll let you do it, but that ain't cute. I was like, first of all, the shade. The shade. And I put it in the mirror because I had it was like a little bow. I thought it was cute. I was like, Mother, you like it? Yeah. And she was like, that was that side eye, and put that hat right on. Took a picture in the hat, but those are memories that I love. Or even when she was in the hospital and I drove to go see her and she was asleep, but she woke up and she was like, hey, Sonia. And I did her hair. It was like she was I combed her hair, and she was always just letting us be grandkids. No matter how old we were, no matter how grown we thought we were always just, like she would say, her children. So that's something that sticks with me. I'm just glad we had this conversation. Yes. I mean, I know I'm the only one that teared up. Dana be fighting her tears. Let me tell you something. She ain't no G. Don't. I mean, my granny right here. She is a G for real. Very seldom you gonna see her tear. I'm a crybaby, seriously, and people don't know that. But Dana was over there. That's why she rubbed them legs. she trying to keep herself calm, but I had to let it go. But I'm so grateful that we had this conversation, because it shows the importance of what you are imparting in generations to come after you. And those of you who don't have that example, you can become that example. Yes. You know what I mean? If you pray, God will send you someone to be that example to you, and you can change the trajectory of how you impart into your children, your children's children, all the way down the line, and it will just be a trickling effect And what I'm so grateful for is that we have this opportunity to talk to you guys, because this may be the pivotal point in your life. If you are a great grandmother, a grandmother, a mother who have, fallen short of all of these characteristics, these traits, these attributes that we are talking about, mother exemplified, my granny exemplified, our aunts exemplified, and you find yourself falling short, you can make a change right now.
Yes.
You can set a new tone. Never too late. You can set a new tone for your family. You can be the change that they need before you check up out of here. And before we go, I just want y'all to give a word of encouragement to everyone that's on our generation, on your generation. What would you say as far as leaving a legacy? What word of advice would you give them to the women in your generation, Granny?
To the women in my generation, because I see it so often. Be yourself. You don't have to conform and try to make yourself do things that younger women are doing. We need to be examples. I have so many of my friends. I look at them and we do a lot of things together. And sometimes I can see them trying to change. You have to be yourself. And you don't have to put on any facade. And you don't have to try to stay young. The Lord beautifies the meek with salvation. I'm not saying I'm beautiful, but the Lord will beautify you with salvation. And you just stay yourself.
What about you, Dana? Because I'm the great grandchild, so you speak for the grandchildren.
Establishing a secure and stable relationship with God. I promise you, He'll move mountains on your behalf. He will make way. What do the older people say? He'll make ways out of no way. And it's the truth. So all that stuff I grew up listening to, now I know. I find it to be true. Just keeping a connection, a relationship with God, and I promise you, you'll be successful and He'll move mountains for you.
I just want to piggyback on everything that they said. Being yourself is being who Christ called you to be.
Yes.
And that's essentially what both of you guys were saying. But just to my generation of great grandchildren, even though I'm older than Dana, just my advice would be to laugh. Learn to laugh through life.
Yes.
I mean, and I know we say mother was saved. She was saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, but she knew how to laugh.
Yes.
And learn how to enjoy life.
Yes.
Enjoy life. Be relaxed. Smile. Have laughter. Make your family laugh. And you know what? And it'll make your family want to be around you. Because I know a lot of people who have grandmothers, great grandmothers. And you like, when last time you talked to your granny, child? And you like, I can't imagine. What you mean? It's things like that. And so I just want to be encouraging and give you a word of advice to just laugh, love God, and be yourself. And we know when you have a personal relationship with God, you can do nothing but be yourself. So I pray that we helped you guys. I pray that that you use this time to go love on your loved ones, to change whatever you need to change in your family, so that you can leave a legacy for your children. If you didn't know your parents, if you didn't know your grandmother, your great grandmother, it doesn't disqualify you. You can, even if you're a man. I know we're talking about mother, but even if you're a man, you too can leave a legacy for your family. It is important what you're leaving, what your name is ringing in the earth when you are no longer here. So, thank y'all, Granny, Dana, for joining me. Y'all, it was like pulling teeth to get them here, but they are here, and I'm so glad. I'm so blessed, that we had this conversation, because everyone and then let me say this before we check up out of here. Y'all, look at my granny here. Come on, yes, yeah, go to the side. No. Yeah. That's Indian, y'all, because a lot of people are always thinking I'm from Africa. No, it's Native American. Native American. Don't get this twisted. That comes from mother.
Yes.
Okay? But thank you guys for joining us. I pray this was a blessing. Hey, y'all know what it is. I say it every week. Next Wednesday is another another episode of What's the Issue Wednesday. We'll have another fresh topic, another great guest joining me. Tomorrow is Bible study. Hey, join me so we can walk the word, fresh revelation, rhema word from God. We need to know the word and get it in us, okay?
Yes.
God bless you all. Thank you for joining us again. We love you and you have a good one.